storytelling. We're diving into storytelling articles, research, personal stories, the works, and looking for, what did you call it? Right. True storytelling. Definitely interested to see where this deep dive takes us.
Yeah, it's interesting. We swim in a sea of stories every day, but how often do we really think about them, how they work? I'm hoping we can, pull back the curtain a bit on all that.
This goes way beyond just telling a good story, from what I can see. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got stuff here about how businesses get storytelling wrong, this enthinkment thing, which I got to admit has my brain already going. And even living stories like from indigenous cultures and stuff. It feels like it's all about us, right? Understanding ourselves, but through stories.
You're right on the money with that. Stories aren't just entertainment, right? They shape how we see the world, even who we think we are. Powerful stuff.
All right, so let's unpack some of this. You said business storytelling can be dull, which honestly seems kind of weird. Don't businesses like thrive on telling good stories?
Of course. But it's the approach, see? Gets them stuck. Too focused on the bottom line, profits, all that. It's like trying to paint, I don't know, using just one color gray, let's say. You get the idea across, but boring.
Which is where this whole enthinkment thing comes in.
Exactly. It's about questioning, digging deeper, like a good mental workout. Don't just accept the story you're told. Pick at it, see where it goes.
Okay, so how do you do enthinkment? Sounds good,
Hmm.
but got an example to make it, like concrete.
Let me tell you about this guy, Louis Pondy, big shot organizational scholar, right? August of '86, he's in front of everyone, his people, and he says straight up, his famous model, the one he's known for, flawed.
Wow, takes guts to admit you're wrong, especially publicly like that.
See, that's the thing. Pondy, he cared more about getting it right than being right, challenged his own thinking, enthinkment in action, and guess what? People respected him even more for it.
Huh, changes how you look at it. To tell a story that matters, I've got to be willing to look beyond the easy answer, even if it means questioning your own stuff.
Hmm.
Now, you mentioned different types of storytelling. There's business, but what other ways do we do stories?
Well, we can break it down into three main types. First, you've got your dominant narratives, the big ones, shaping our societies, cultures, all that, often tied to Western ways of knowing. Some call it W.
Ooh, woke, got it. So, like, are these dominant narratives the kind of stories we hear over and over in the news, from people in charge, that kind of thing?
Exactly. So ingrained, we don't even realize they're shaping our thoughts, how we act.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the second type? Living stories, was it?
Right. Living stories come from indigenous ways of knowing Iwak, and they're all about connection to the community, nature, lived experience, passed down, full of wisdom and history.
Fascinating. Any example of a living story and how it's different from those dominant ones?
Sure. Take the Lakota people. They have this thing called telling it true, super important in their culture. Storytelling isn't just for fun there. It carries vital knowledge.
Yeah.
How to survive, their history, values, the whole work.
So for the Lakota, these living stories are, like, crucial to how they live.
Exactly. Imagine if a story told wrong could be, well, life or death. Right. That's telling it true for the Lakota serious stuff. Shows how important storytelling is in their culture.
Makes you think about how we tell stories, right?
No.
Almost like it's, well, trivial sometimes. Clearly different cultures, different approaches, totally different purpose even. But there's still that third type, the anti-narrative one. Bit of a mouthful, that one. What's it all about?
Yeah, antenarrative storytelling processes, or ASPs, they're like the seeds of stories. Little fragments, ideas, possibilities, not quite a full story yet.
So if I'm picturing a finished story like, say, a mosaic, are these anti-narratives like the individual pieces, scattered around, waiting to be put together?
Perfect way to put it. The raw materials, the building blocks of all our stories, even if we don't realize it. And they're influencing those big dominant narratives we talked about, and the living stories, too. Powerful stuff.
Kind of blows your mind when you think about it that way, huh? These invisible forces shaping the stories that shape us. If we could understand these anti-narrative things, maybe we could figure out why some stories stick, others don't.
Exactly. Not just understand, but influence even. Become aware of these processes. We can shape the stories we tell, the impact they have.
Which leads to something you've mentioned a few times, finding our true selves. Big idea. How does that connect with all this storytelling stuff?
Think about it. Those dominant narratives, so strong in our culture, they often try to tell us who to be, what to value, all that. Prepackaged identities, you could say.
So finding our true selves is about, what, breaking free of that? Writing our own stories.
That's it. Recognizing those dominant narratives, seeing the wisdom in the living stories, and using that to connect with our own true experiences.
You know, that reminds me, I came across this term in the research, little wow moments. Seems to fit in here
It
somehow.
absolutely does. Little wow moments, those are the times we've defied those dominant narratives, acted authentically, even if it surprised us, went against the grain.
Like when you finally spoke up for what you believe in, even though, you were scared, or took a chance on that dream everyone said was crazy.
Yes, exactly like that. They might seem small, those moments, but they hold a powerful truth about who we really are. Glimpses of our true selves, unfiltered.
Like breadcrumbs leading us back to ourselves. But how do we use those moments? Make them into, I don't know, a bigger story.
That's where restoring comes in. We revisit those little wow moments, think about what they tell us about ourselves, and then we use that to create a new story, a powerful one, about who we are, what we stand for.
Taking back control, yeah. Writing our own narrative.
Exactly. Reclaiming our stories, honoring our journeys, and becoming our true selves. It's a powerful thing. Liberating, even.
This is really eye-opening, all this. We've gone from questioning other people's stories to, like, taking back our own. But we keep dancing around this idea of true storytelling, right? What's the, practical meaning of that?
The big question, huh? Well, lucky for us, you've got those articles by, let me see, Larson, Boje, and Brune. They've got these 7 principles of true storytelling. Really resonated with me.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Highlighted it and everything. Important stuff, but gotta admit, not sure I could put it into practice.
Well, let's break it down a bit, make it practical. The first principle is being true to yourself. Connect with that restoring idea, right? Your authentic voice, honesty, even if it's scary.
Truth will set you free,
Yeah.
right? But this time it's the truth of your own story.
Exactly. And that leads right into the second principle, making space for other people's stories too. Everyone has their own, it deserves to be heard.
So it's not just telling, it's listening to, honoring those other stories.
Absolutely. True storytelling builds understanding, connection. And for the third principle, we've got having a clear plot direction. That's the craft part. Structure, engaging your audience, all that.
Makes me think of those living stories we talked about. They always seem to have a purpose, right? A message woven in.
Exactly. And that ties into the fourth principle, timing. Knowing when to reveal stuff, build suspense, even when to slow down, creates a rhythm that pulls people in.
So even true storytelling, there's still an art to it, huh? A skill.
For sure. Fifth principle now, got to be okay with stories evolving. They're live, changing, adapting, just like us.
Not holding on to a fixed version, but letting it grow as we do.
You got it. Number 6 is staging, presentation. How we tell the story is just as important as the story itself. Our voices, even our body language, it all adds up.
Reminds me of those little wow moments, often tied to a feeling, a place, even a sound, right?
Mhm.
The sensory thing.
Great connection. And finally, the seventh principle, reflecting on the impact. Does this story help me, help others? What kind of world am I building with my words?
Taking responsibility, huh? For the power stories have.
Exactly. True storytelling isn't just for fun, it can change things. Got to use that power carefully, ethically.
Wow, what a deep dive. Seriously, I'm looking at stories totally differently now.
It's a journey for sure. Keep those questions coming, explore your own little wow moments, see where your own true story leads you.
And to everyone listening, out there making sense of your own stories, we hope this deep dive has given you some fresh perspectives, maybe even some tools to use. Your story matters. Never forget that. Keep searching, keep sharing, and keep writing your own true story.